going to be doing the week 4 tier list for the U Impact patch. So before we get into really kind of the biggest movements, there were some smaller ones. Espeon was more closer to the top of the solid pick. I've since moved it down. Espeon's kind of been lacking on that win rate. Doing really well when it comes to the 5v5 solo queue tournaments, but it's this kind of a problem with a lot of these attackers you're going to see is that most don't even reach a 50% win rate with this current meta. They're actually mostly hovering like a 50% or less. So Espeon's win rate could be a bit better. Same thing kind of with Miraidon and Dragapult. Dragapult being a bit difficult, I would have to say, for a lot of new players to play. I see a lot of people trying out to do Dragon Dance, which is said that requires a lot on your positioning and the team comp you're going to be going against. Alternative is you're going to be going Phantom Force, which you're going to need KOs to become good. If you're not going to get KOs in that game, you're not going to get that late game spike, and you're going to be better off going a different attacker at that point, even like, you know, Latias or even Glaceon, someone with more consistent late game damage. Miraidon really good with the range, but again, not the easiest Pokemon to play. There are some, I would say these guys are the more safer options just compared to the bottom 3 over here. Pikachu Perfect Zoner in that top lane, Glaceon, Venusaur having amazing late games, and then Latios being Latios, but we will also, just really quickly, not be moving Latios up to the Masters rank. Just want to highlight over his ban rate being at an 87.86%. Almost 90%. Now, almost 9 in 10 games he's going to be banned, and I can't exactly have a must-play Pokemon be banned 9 out of 10 times this week, so he will still be occupying the top of the solid pick tier right now. However, he is by all intents and purposes the best attacker in the game. Also, before we just quickly get into it, we've also moved around some of these all-rounders a bit higher in the solid pick tier. So we got Scyther, which, I mean, you just gotta watch a couple of these world games even if you want to see some good Scyther carrying, but so much potential. Serena also performing extremely well. We got some other picks here, and there's going to be kind of this theme on attackers who can just, again, like do this Ray Pit Bite and also bulky enough to survive. But we also got Pokemon like Dragonite and Gyarados moving down a little bit, not really performing as well as they were at the beginning of this patch till now. There seems to be some better options, and especially this priority of like either playing Pokemon that don't evolve or Pokemon that only have one stage of evolving. So that's most of the small ones right now, and I think we can just get into the larger part of it now. So we'll just start in Pokédex number order with the attackers first, and first we got Alolan Raichu, which was occupying the must-play for last week. I must say, Alolan Raichu has kind of fallen from the graces, and again, a lot of this has to do with who people are playing in the current meta. Alolan Raichu rocking a 48.3% win rate, one of the lowest in the games, almost at bottom 10. But even for the attackers, Alolan Raichu is actually doing fairly poor. I think we're going to be moving him just down to the bottom of the solid pick tier right now. It's still a really good pickup. Hasn't been like directly nerfed at all. It's just a little too reliant on having a proper support on your team, which is, you know, something you can never rely on in a solo queue game. So next we got Mewtwo-Y. Mewtwo-Y inhabiting the could be better tier last week. We'll be moving him up all the way to the top of the not bad tier. He's honestly one of the more consistent attackers that we got currently. You can see that he's got his long range and his infinite Cyburn, which has that global kind of range, being such an impactful move, especially during that Ray fight. Also being a Pokemon that doesn't evolve, you're going to have that just consistent pressure early on in that lane. It's going to carry on to that middle of that game, and, you know, going to be one of the better picks you can do for an attacker. Biggest downside to Mewtwo-Y though is he's boring to play. That's really it. He's just extremely strong in his move kit, extremely strong in that lane pressure, but boring. So we'll skip over Greninja for now and just go over to Inteleon, which, if you are a little bit unaware, Inteleon is currently rocking the lowest win rate in the game at a 46.5%. The nerfs to its snipe shot have definitely not been kind to it, and it has been one of the most picked Pokemon to one of the least picked, and again, worst win rate in the game. It's not to say that Snipe Shot is just like completely gone. There's no value you can get out of it. There is still, you know, specific teams you can run with it, but that damage makes it so that it can't win these 1v1 engagements as convincingly anymore, which then requires it to have support or a proper front line to be with you. And at that point, we're getting into these levels of just like having a little bit too much communication, a lot more that's typically required for a solo duo queue game. So probably going to be one of the biggest movements we got today, but we're going to be moving them all the way down to the could be better tier, right under Mew actually. Probably one of the biggest falls from graces. I mean, it's historic rise this year we got from Inteleon, but historic fall that we got over here. It's kind of crazy. Last, we got two attackers, Greninja and Duraludon, but we also got a must play for the week. And I was going back and forth a little bit about who this must play for this week should be. However, I've seemed to settle. When we scroll through win rates on attackers, we see that Latias is actually the highest at 53.52. Shouldn't be any surprise there. However, we go down and we gotta go all the way down to a 50.78 and we see Duraludon sneaking in as the second highest win rate for an attacker in the game. So very surprising to see Duraludon there. Duraludon's Dragon Pulse buff has been just giving it dividends and so much secure potential. The Unstoppable in its Unite move also gives it an insane amount of survivability in that Rayquaza pit, and you know, can just flash over the wall with the Unite move combos, completely surprise the other team. Now, the reason why Duraludon though will not be in the must play is because if you look at this pick rate for the last week, one reason why Duraludon has such a high win rate compared to the attackers is because we have to go all the way down, I guess second least played, Pokemon in the game. So yes, he has a high win rate compared to these other attackers, but that may in large be due to the fact he has such a low play rate. We'll kind of see how he holds up over this next week. It's definitely nice seeing Duraludon, and again, been doing really well since these last patches. But ignoring Duraludon, the next attacker we're going to get to is Greninja, which highly adaptable attacker, and one that you can play kind of like a speedster, you know, throw him in the jungle instead of typically in a lane. Perhaps you don't even want an attacker in your lanes anymore, right? So for this week, because of all of what was previously said, the win rate, the pick rate, we will be going with Greninja as our must play. However, be moving up Duraludon right in front of Espeon for our solid pick for this week. Duraludon being much easier to play than Espeon, because Espeon being such a skill shot reliant Pokemon. If you can hit those skill shots, then you can easily make this argument for Espeon being better than Duraludon. But Duraludon is honestly a lot easier to pick up, and really just kind of learning how to play around that Dragon Pulse and making sure you get those V-sets, you're going to be shredding the opponents, especially during that wave fight. We'll move on now to our all-rounders, and first we got to start with Mewtwo-X, but the stun to Mewtwo-X was nerfed a little bit, but Mewtwo-X still being a lot like Mewtwo-Y, very boring, very good. Infinite Cyburn being such an amazing Unite move, being global and everything. If you can get a perfect Infinite Cyburn off, your team will get so far ahead in that team fight. Quickly, we'll just put Mewtwo just actually in front of Urshifu in our solid pick tier for this week. A lot of these all-rounders are going to be inhabiting these solid picks because of just the status of these attackers right now. Scizor was inhabiting this solid pick tier, and I typically put Scizor around Scyther, them being fairly similar in style. Big difference on one being assassin heavy, one being more sustain heavy. However, in this meta, Scyther has been performing so much better than Scizor. Scizor is now in this position a lot like where Dark Urshifu is. I think it might just be a complete detriment to play Scizor in any kind of game you can get a Scyther in. Bullet Punch is not as good as X-Scissor in any regard, and even the games where you can justify going Bullet Punch, I'm gonna have to throw out the question, why don't you not play Buzzswole? Why don't you play, Blaziken? There's a lot of other attackers that get the same kind of job done a lot more consistently, and not going Scyther just means you're going to be lacking in a bunch of power. It's a bit silly in my eyes to do so. One Pokemon that will be moving up is going to be Lucario, and Lucario, at first I thought the buffs were a bit small on Lucario. I think they could have been a little bit more. He still kind of hits like a wet noodle compared to these other all-rounders, especially at this late game stage, but that early game pressure that you can put on as Lucario, as like, you know, after you get a couple stacks off, definitely no joke. If you're able to get those extreme speed resets, you're going to be so annoying for the other team to deal with. And if you can get a team and you pair two all-rounders together, like Lucario and Zacian, or Lucario and Scyther even, you're going to be just continuously pressuring both lanes almost the entire game. Being said, he's not a Pokemon that can carry a game by himself. He's a kind of like Machamp in that way, where, again, very solid, very good pressure, even a decent secure, but just at the end of the day, a poor man's Blaziken. The Blaziken at home. Moving on now, moving down will be Mimikyu. Really good Pokemon if you look back at like even around like November of last year, all the way up to most of this year, Mimikyu's been very solid. But now the bulkier all-rounders that do a lot better in these Rayquaza fights and are also having an initiation that the team can follow up on are doing so much better. And Mimikyu is just kind of suffering from this current meta because of that reason. So he will be moving back down to the top, right behind Garchomp in the not bad tier. Play Rough still being a very easy set to get the hang of and play, but the value that you're going to be providing for your team with this all-rounder pick, Pokemon like Bitterblade, Cerulege have been doing a lot better since that last buff. Moving on, Tinkaton is a Pokemon that we had usually it's kind of like in the middle of our not bad tier. It's a Pokemon that is kind of hard to recommend to play for players because it's more in depth. There's a lot like extra mechanics you have to be aware of when playing Tinkaton, mostly related to the farming aspect of this Pokemon. Being said, it has an amazing win rate. We can see it at a 51% win rate, only going up right now. Pokemon that you won't see banned too often and played fairly, not too much, but enough to get some good data on it. And I think it's time to move Tinka to the, I guess, bottom of this solid pick tier. We'll be keeping Urshifu just at the very bottom. That's going to be it for all of our all-rounders. So now we're just going to go to our speedsters, and we got a lot of movement, honestly, with these speedsters. Probably the most movement out of any class here. We moved someone out of the brick position in the last. I believe Gengar was inhabiting that for the last 2 weeks. We're actually going to be moving Meowscarada all the way down. When it comes to these speedsters, they're all really good. It's hard to say that any of them are bad, but they fall off extremely hard in this current meta, and there's a specific type of speedster that is going to be much more impactful for your team for the entirety of that game than having your Absols or your Leafeons, which you have to play extremely well and make next to no mistakes, because as soon as you make the smallest mistake, you're just a sitting duck and the other team's going to capitalize on that. For that reason, Meowscarada kind of fitting in that category, one of the worst out of all the speedsters we're going to be putting in the brick position for this week. Gengar moving up to the bottom of the could be better tier. So let's move on though to Darkrai. He's amazing in this early game. He is phenomenal with this damage, and I honestly want to put him in the must play, but he has no secure. And we're talking about solo queue in this tier list. Having a team secure the Rayquaza buff for you is so hard to do, and even if you're playing Darkrai and you don't get that early lead, you lose so much value. I think we're going to be moving him all the way down from solid pick to the bottom of the not bad tier. There's not much you can do about this besides changing the current meta, because he's an extremely strong Pokemon. Insane amount of pressure you're going to be putting on if you run him in the lane, if you run him as the jungle. It's that late game, as soon as that 7-minute mark hits, your value is going to drop tremendously, especially when we're comparing him to every single speedster in the game. Another speedster that's going to be moving down, who was actually inhabiting our must-play for weeks on end, is going to be Talonflame. Talonflame honestly having a really bad week currently. 49.4% win rate. Again, another Pokemon consistently performing well. You can look back, and week over week, he will be the speedster that will usually inhabit either the must play or the solid pick for the speedster of the week. It's not going to be the case this time. Talonflame is going to be moving down to the not bad tier. He's actually going to be moving under Zoroark. Huge fall from grace, due in part to because Zoroark has been doing tremendously well. All speedsters are going to be doing very well in that early game. The whole point of the speedster is to get those early ganks off, get that lane ahead. So you're going to see, for the most part, they're going to have a lot more early damage than their competition. But when it comes to that late game, they're going to fall off. Zoroark, when paired with the right support, does not fall off at all. I think Worlds is probably the best examples of the potential we can see with this, but something as simple as Zoroark and Comfey can completely change a game and just put it on its head. And you don't necessarily need the Comfey, but it's mostly just like an Eldegoss support works, Blissey support works, but just giving him that little bit of support helps him just survive for a tremendous amount of time. We're going to be putting him all the way at the bottom of the solid pick tier, because as I said earlier though, there's a specific type of speedster that your team is going to value way more than all the other types of speedsters. And if you haven't guessed by now, but it's going to be the Dodrios and the Galarian Rapidashes. The backcapping is so important right now. Getting around the map, especially around that Rayquaza time, is so important, but also having the potential to dramatically affect that Rayquaza fight. And both Dodrio and Rapidash having extremely good Unite moves that also act as initiations. And we're going to get to defense in a second, but one thing that is very necessary for the best Pokemon in the game right now is the initiation aspect of that Pokemon. It's because of, as I said, the defense in a second, we've seen even this huge meta shift, but the fact that 1, Galarian Rapidash is fast, 2, Galarian Rapidash has a tremendous initiation when compared to the rest of the speedsters in the game, but 3, you can run support Rapidash. You can go top lane Rapidash, bottom lane Rapidash, middle lane, support, full attack, right? You can do anything you want with this guy and it will work. I mean, it's best to, watch a kind of a video to kind of get the hangs of this Pokemon, but Spark Strike is an insanely good, one of the best support moves in the game. The versatility that Rapidash offers alone would put it in a must-play tier, but the fact that it's also a meta-relevant Pokemon right now is just, icing on the top. And I think without a shadow of a doubt, you gotta put Rapidash at the top. Again, bit of a hard playstyle to learn at first, not your typical speedster, but oh man, the versatility of this Pokemon, it blows Zoroark out of the water. Dodrio just only one thing you can do is Dodrio, which is backcap and be extremely annoying, and then initiate something at that Rayquaza fight. That's it. So now we're gonna get to the defenders, and this is probably the biggest switch up that there's gonna be, and we're gonna kind of tackle these guys in bulk. So we got Blastoise, Mamoswine, and Trevenant. I think since I started this, these guys have inhabited either the solid pick or the must play tier. And this will be the first time I'm actually going to be moving all 3 of them to the not bad tier. Now again, not bad Pokemon, but underperforming Pokemon. And there's a big reason for this. The reason why Blastoise and Mamoswine specifically is because they take way too long to get online. Way too long to get online. You spend sometimes 7 minutes just to get to that 3rd stage evolution, and at that time you might have already had 2 or 3 team fights because of how fast this game is going right now, because you're competing against all-rounders who don't evolve, all-rounders who evolve 1 time, so they're looking to fight, they're looking to invade, and while you're a Piloswine, while you're a War Turtle, you're doing very little. Say now you're in the situation where you're behind in a game and it takes 5 minutes to get that level 9 spike. If you just played almost any other defender in the game, your team would have valued so much more. And so one of the saving graces about having such a late evolution when it comes to Blastoise and Mamoswine is that initiation for that Rayquaza fight. It was one of the best things you could have. You just, hide behind your Mamoswine, hide behind your Blastoise. As soon as he goes in, hits his Unite move, everybody jumps in, and it was a clean sweep. Everyone went home, everyone's happy. The meta shifted. One thing if you do notice about a lot of these high-ranking Pokemon right now, they also have initiations. Charizard can get his suplex off, right? He can get his seismic toss off, and the team can follow in after. Suicune can catch someone out with one of his frosts, and then the team can initiate after. There's no need for these kinds of Pokemon right now, and this is where Trevenant also kind of falls in. Really good initiation Pokemon, but there's no need for them anymore. We have better Pokemon that can do that, and because of that, these tanks, these defenders that originally just focused on being tanky, being annoying, being in your way, are being a lot better now. Now they can survive in that Rayquaza fight. Now they can defend against, help your attacker live for a longer time. When these guys are just like, you'll be in situations where they'll be like, 5 feet, 6 feet away, right? Way across the map essentially from your attacker, not defending your attacker. They're getting bursted by an all-rounder. These are the perfect Pokemon to help that attacker survive in that situation. These 4 Pokemon, these 4 defenders. These guys, unless you play them specifically, they're not going to be good on that. But if you're going to be playing them that defensively, you're losing the initiation power that they provide. And now you're left with kind of a husk of a Pokemon. Sadly, we're going to have to move all 3 down, but really good performing though. Really good performance by Lapras and Snorlax in particular. Again, Pokemon that don't evolve, so you're going to be online in an instant. Lapras Express also being able to give you that map mobility, which is amazing right now. Going to be starting the event soon, so let's just quickly run through these supports. And so supports was extremely hard to place. It's all over the place. Alcremie, I think we will be moving to our must play. It's going to be overtaking Latias, which I had last week, and we're going to get to Latias in a second. But Alcremie, I think, has one of the highest win rates and a lot of special attack to boot. Something that you have to think about in these solo queue games is how can I carry myself to win the game? And Alcremie is a very good option to do so. Another option that people would probably gravitate towards is Psyduck, but if we go back to the win rates really quickly, Psyduck rocking in 49.75% win rate, and if we actually go to his pick rate, this is where I actually got a bit surprised. In the bottom 10 of pick rate, this is, I'm honestly kind of surprised because, yeah, Psyduck did get nerfed. It was mostly its radius, a little bit of damage ratios, also its surf got nerfed. I really wasn't expecting Psyduck being a insta-ban Pokemon almost to a virtually not played Pokemon whatsoever. I don't think Psyduck really even got hit that hard in the grand scheme of things. It's just kind of amazing to see this fall from grace that Psyduck has had. Psyduck's still gonna inhabit the bottom of our solid pick tier, but I do hope to see a little bit more Psyducks in the future. It's just a bit baffling that, such small tweaks can affect a play rate so dramatically. So next we're gonna actually move on to Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, we moved down to the could be better tier last week. We're gonna be putting them back up to the solid pick tier. A little bit more versatility than these not bads. You'll see that these not bads are more gimmicky in nature. It looks like Wigglytuff is a bit gimmicky on surface, but it really has a useful passive, especially how it can draw Pokemon towards it, and then the sleep being just insanely versatile with a lot of these all-rounders for, initiation purposes. I think we can just put it back in that solid pick tier because of that. Next, we're gonna go on to Clefable, which I was grappling between Clefable and Alcremie for this must play, but we will put Clefable at the top of the solid pick, mostly because it's acting as a counter pick for a lot of these all-rounders that are good right now. Gravity, Follow Me, Healing Pulse, all extremely good moves, keeps your team alive for a very long time, and it's that deceptive amount of HP that your team's going to get that's going to make a lot of these Pokemon overcommit to some KOs that they're not going to get. Put your team ahead because of that. Last but not least, Latias. I did put him at the must play the week he did release. Very strong Pokemon on paper. He did very well on some of the testing servers and a lot of the tests. So, those damage ratios look very nice. Obviously, pairing it with Latios is extremely nice, but it has become very apparent that Latias is niche and a bit of a gimmick. We're going to be moving Latias down to the not bad tier. It's not bad by any means. When paired right, it's good, but it all has to do with the meta. And a lot of this placement just has to do with meta. If you look at a lot of the best all-rounders right now, even some of the best attackers, a lot of them are doing physical damage. Latias only benefits you if you do special attack. The meta is not there for those special attackers right now. And because of that, Latias suffers. When the meta slowly evolves and special attackers start becoming more in the front line, you're definitely going to see a lot more Latias, and they're going to do a lot better. You're going to be able to pair them with the Gardevoirs or pair them with the Suicunes, I guess. As it currently stands, Latias kind of needs a buff. maybe buff its tankiness a little bit at this point. But really, if you just buff the special attackers a bit more, maybe even introduce some more special attacking all-rounders that can get the job done as efficiently as a Zacian can, as efficiently as a Scyther can, I think we'll definitely see a lot more of these Latias picks. So that was this week's tier list. So much movement with these Pokemon, and we're definitely going to see how they perform for the weeks leading out. A lot of these, again, have to do with some of these win rates, and I mean, if you just look across the board here, you'll see there's a lot of Pokemon with like huge fluctuations in the win rates that they had even last week to this week. Been a crazy meta that we've had. I know a lot of players are struggling with getting to the higher ranks this season, and a lot of it seems to have to do with this kind of meta shift that happened kind of overnight, in a way, where these other all-rounders who weren't the best that you could say before have suddenly become these must-play picks and dominating every game they're a part of. Hey guys, Briknasty here, and before we end the video, I just wanted to go over the poll I set up last week asking you guys what the highest battle ribbon with any specific Pokemon. And so getting into it, we had 19% at the no battle ribbon, 28% at the green battle ribbon, which is 30,000 points for a specific Pokemon. Next was the blue battle ribbon, coming in the most with 36%, and that is 85,000 points on a single Pokemon. And last, we actually had, with the smallest percentage, the gold battle ribbon, 165,000 points on a single Pokemon. You know, something that will probably take you around 500 to 700 games, and that's like using a double battle point booster at that. So something that definitely takes a while to go for. And it'd be interesting if Pokemon Unite ever decides to change these ratios around, or even make a new tier. You know, Crimson tier, Onyx tier with the battle ribbon. But we'll see what they do in the future. Anyways, keep an eye out for the next poll that will be coming out Monday morning. And until next time, guys, stay nasty.